In this video, I'll be talking about the two world powers, the United States, led by its new president, Donald Trump, who has boldly declared that a global trade war with China is inevitable, and China, led by President Xi Jinping, who has also stated that he will not let China repeat its past mistakes or stumble again because of a trade war with the US. Here's some supporting information. If you want to support this financial battle, you can do so via the QR code right here. But if you're not able to support, that's totally fine. I just really want you to watch this video all the way through, because while they're busy fighting, what I really want to know is, where should I put my money? That's all. Which side should we start with? Because right now, both sides are really heating up. Let's start with the United States, with Donald Trump's side. As everyone knows, Donald Trump and the Republican Party totally swept the board. They won everything, from the presidency to both the Senate and the House of Representatives. So the entire US government is now under Republican control in a way that's just overwhelmingly dominant. Right now, they could point at a bird and call it a jet plane if they wanted to. Donald Trump now holds immense and overwhelming control. It covers everything, whether it's the budget, taxes, trade, or even tariffs and trade barriers. What I'm talking about here is his domestic power within the United States, as well as the authority to protect American goods from foreign imports. As for the power the United States holds over other countries around the world, aside from its vast network of military weapons, you can check that out in this Bangkok Biz News video. When it comes to the United States, we can see why most countries don't really dare to go up against America. And another power that this video will talk about is the financial dominance over the US dollar. No matter who becomes the president of the United States, America will always have unrivaled authority and control over the currency known as the US dollar. And it's this very dollar that can be used to exert significant influence over other nations. Anyone who holds US dollars, whether they use them for trade, transactions, a wide range of international business dealings, or even as a country holding dollars as their foreign currency reserves to maintain long-term national economic stability, that country is essentially under the power of the US dollar, right? And the US dollar itself is under the control of the United States. It's absolute and final. In the past, the United States has been able to use the US dollar as a financial weapon to impose sanctions on countries, to seize their money, or to freeze assets in those countries. If any country breaks the rules, that is, does something the US doesn't like, they can be sanctioned. No matter how many hundreds of billions are held in reserves as US dollars, the US can seize them instantly, right away. All it takes is just an order. But if you listen carefully, you'll notice that the power of the US dollar actually has a weakness. The weakness is that only those who hold dollars are under the power of the US dollar, right? So if you don't hold dollars, you're not under the power of the US dollar. And if you're not under the power of the dollar, then whenever there are orders for sanctions, freezing assets, seizing money, or any kind of asset freeze, it doesn't mean anything anymore to those who don't hold dollars. To put it simply, any country that successfully de-dollarizes, that is, stops using the dollar, will no longer be subject to US sanctions. And the country leading the charge in de-dollarization, encouraging others to stop using the dollar and switch to local currencies, is China. Because China is a country that was hit hard by the US with a full-blown trade war back in 2017 and 2018, right? That was when Donald Trump became president for the first time. China really took a hit. And this time, there's another political angle to it. Donald Trump is coming back as the 47th president of the United States, right? He'll have to pick someone to be his government spokesperson, and he's chosen this person, Marco Rubio. So Marco Rubio is someone who is really strongly anti-China. He's the kind of person who comes right out and says that China is the enemy of the United States. China steals, China cheats, China does all sorts of things. Rubio really goes all out. And it's not like he just started saying this. He's been talking like this since Trump's first term. That's why during Trump's first term, when he declared a trade war on China, China responded by sanctioning and blacklisting a total of 11 US politicians. Rubio was actually one of those 11 people who got sanctioned and blacklisted. But this time, he's about to become the spokesperson for Donald Trump's administration. So we'll have to see whether China will agree to remove Rubio from the blacklist. If China decides to lift the sanctions and take Rubio off the blacklist, it might make China look less tough or less resolute in the eyes of the world. But if China refuses to remove Rubio from the blacklist, that means Rubio, as the government spokesperson, won't be able to negotiate with China or even enter the country. And China won't be willing to talk to Rubio either. This could make the relationship between the United States and China even more hostile, dragging things down to an even worse state. But if we're talking about the relationship between China and the US, especially in terms of trade, honestly, I'm not even sure if China has already given up on its relationship with the US or not. Because everyone knows, everyone in the world knows, and China knows too, that Donald Trump is going to announce an increase in tariffs against China, raising them to at least 60%. And when I said I'm not sure if China has already given up, I mean, have they just let things slide? Like, whatever happens between us, good or bad, just let it be, who cares anymore? Let's take a look at China's trade health for a moment. The chart of China's balance of trade shows us China's trade surplus. We can see that ever since China was hit hard by the US with this trade war strategy, back in Trump's first term in 2018, China was still racking up massive trade surpluses with the rest of the world. The blue bars you see rising on the chart represent those surpluses. And not only has China continued to profit from other countries, but the trend is still going up. Just look at this year, 2024. It's not even over yet, and China has already posted a global trade surplus of nearly $1 trillion. Out of that almost $1 trillion in surplus, that's all profit China has made. Out of that, the United States alone accounts for $300 billion. That's huge. So huge that America is angry. Like, you can't just make that much profit off my country. And the fact that China can run such a massive trade surplus means the world really needs and relies on Chinese goods right now. Why is that? It's because most of the world is currently dealing with inflation, and every country wants to keep inflation under control. They want to keep goods and services in their own countries from getting too expensive, which would cause hardship for everyone across the nation. That's why it's necessary to import cheap goods from China, to keep inflation from getting out of hand and to prevent production costs from skyrocketing. This way, people can still get by without facing severe inflation. But I have to say, even though importing goods from China is cheap, if you import a ton without any restrictions, that's not good either. It ends up hurting local businesses, right? So when you look at the numbers showing China's huge trade surplus with other countries, it might seem like China's doing just fine. But in reality, the Chinese economy isn't actually that great. Otherwise, Chinese stocks wouldn't have been dropping so hard for years in a row, right? So what's causing this? It's because they're being hit by the United States. The big blow came when the US launched a trade war in 2018. China is a country that focuses on manufacturing and exporting goods to the world. But when the United States, which is the biggest consumer country in the world, declared a trade war on China, things came to a halt. At that time, Chinese businesses, both in manufacturing and exporting, started running out of resources left and right. And once the exporters, manufacturers, and factories started running out of cash flow, it set off a domino effect that kept spreading, eventually causing China's real estate industry to collapse in ruins. This turned into a full-blown economic crisis in China. To this day, the economic crisis triggered by the collapse of China's real estate sector, which all started from the trade war the US launched, still hasn't recovered. Domestic consumption in China hasn't bounced back, and people in China are still afraid to invest in their own country, so they're looking to invest elsewhere. China still doesn't seem to show any signs that it will bounce back to where it was before that easily. However, the Chinese government has already implemented economic stimulus measures and is supporting the industrial and technology sectors. So you have to separate these two things. Domestic consumption in China, which really is struggling, from the export of high-tech products, which is actually doing well. On this point, President Xi Jinping has officially announced that history will not repeat itself. History must change. If you remember Tina, that means we're from the same generation. China must not suffer or fall because of the trade war that the United States has waged, like what happened in the past. She has made that clear. She has made that clear. But President Xi Jinping has his own way of handling things. Hold on, I'll tell you in a bit. But let's go back to the United States for a moment, because in this case, if the US wants to wage a trade war against China, they really have to go all out. Since the last time America launched a trade war against China, China has still managed to expand its trade this much and maintain a trade surplus with the whole world. At this point, China isn't just doing it for profit or to have a trade surplus anymore. They're also determined to break away from being under the power of the US dollar and the United States itself. That's why China is trying to make its trade so massive, and nearly half of that trade is now de-dollarized by allowing transactions with China to be conducted in local currencies instead of the dollar. This time, it means that if the United States says, oh, China's not playing along, and just lets China's global trade keep growing and growing, it's basically allowing de-dollarization, or the undermining. The pressure on the US will keep increasing in proportion to how much China expands its trade. And if China succeeds, it will reduce the demand for the US dollar, and the power of the dollar will decrease. But let me disclaim first, I'm not saying the dollar will disappear or that the dollar will turn into Joss paper. Whoever said that, it wasn't me, okay? Now, back to China. What policies will China use to fight back or counter this? In this US trade war, China has made it clear, if you're gonna slap a 60% tariff on us, then we're not gonna lend to you anymore, according to the PBOC. So if China stops lending to the US, would that be bad for America? It probably would, because China is the second largest holder of US government bonds in the world. So how much US government debt does China currently hold? About $600 million. And that's even after China dumped hundreds of billions of dollars worth of US bonds during the last trade war. They still hold the second largest amount in the world. So if China says, that's it, I'm not buying US debt anymore, the impact on the US would probably be that it becomes harder to sell US government bonds, and they might have to offer higher yields. That would mean the US would have to shoulder a heavier burden, paying more interest on those bonds. And right now, the interest payments are already really high. So no matter what happens, the way they're fighting right now, honestly, for me, there's nothing to get excited about, because everything they're threatening each other with, whether one side does it or not, it's all gonna happen anyway. Whether it's the trade war between the US and China, or the US threatening to raise tariffs on Chinese goods to 60%, no matter what China does, the US is going to slap that 60% tariff on them anyway. As for US government bonds that China has been dumping continuously, China will just keep dumping them, no matter what happens. As for de-dollarization, the effort to undermine the US dollar, well, they might be able to stop it here and there, but not completely. Still, de-dollarization will keep moving forward. So you might ask, why am I making this video? Why did I do all this research? What do I really want to know? There are actually two things I'm much more interested in seeing: what these two countries will do about them. First, the Chinese economy, which is under heavy pressure, not only from the US, but also from domestic consumption issues. The recovery still hasn't happened. And then there's the massive local government debt. Will the Chinese government make it through? Will they be able to achieve their targeted 5% GDP growth as planned? Has the money China pumped in to stimulate the economy been enough to satisfy investors, enough to turn the Chinese stock market back into an upward trend? Personally, I think if China can pull this off, if they make it through this situation, they'll grow, and they'll keep growing pretty steadily. But if they can't, we'll see. The Chinese stock market took another sharp dive, which I think is not going to be a small thing. And the second point is that Donald Trump, he intends to make the United States free from inflation and bring everything back to a state where buying and selling is easy, with prices that are affordable so his people can survive. Just like I mentioned in the Trump Again clip, right? But Donald Trump wants to bring all manufacturing back to the United States. This is something I'm keeping an eye on. If everything is produced in America, it shouldn't cost more, right? So if domestic production actually makes things cheaper, it fits Donald Trump's goal of reducing inflation. But if onshoring manufacturing makes things more expensive, inflation won't go away. It could get worse, and prices will climb even higher. Also, Trump said he wants to lead in oil production. If he pulls that off and oil becomes cheaper, the economy would likely do well. But if he can't, then oil in the US, that would push inflation even higher. More importantly, Ursula von der Leyen, the president of the EU, said that they are considering importing oil from America to use in the European Union instead of oil from Russia. That means if Donald Trump wants to make America a leader in oil production, but ends up producing oil at a higher cost, it wouldn't just hurt the American economy, it would also negatively impact the European Union's economy, especially Germany, which heavily relies on manufacturing. So it's assumed that that's why people are saying that America could go into a recession if everything Donald Trump intends to do ends up failing, and you add that to the $36 trillion national debt, plus a government budget that's running a deficit and a trade deficit that's been going on for so long. It's only natural to wonder, isn't it strange that America hasn't gone into a recession yet?